Hi, I'm Lina. Welcome to Lina's Storybook, where we share the most unforgettable audio novels. Let's get started.
I passed away in the damp, lightless cellar of my boyfriend's ancestral home. My final frantic plea for help silenced by the very best friend who drained my bank accounts instead of calling for help. Now, the darkness is gone. I am back staring into his mother's cold, calculating eyes, smiling as I prepare to feed them the woman who doomed me. Chloe, sweetheart. You city girls are out there breathing in exhaust fumes and drinking chemically treated water every day. It's nothing like the pure, untouched air we have up here in the mountains. Is it? Martha smiled warmly, her deeply lined face crinkling as she took my hand in hers. She gestured toward the sprawling, heavily wooded Appalachian Mountains outside the cabin window. The endless sea of green pines and ancient oaks stretched as far as the eye could see, beautiful but utterly impenetrable. I swallowed the surging wave of sheer anxiety bubbling in my throat, and forced myself to look around in feigned wonder. My boyfriend Liam stood next to her, a boyish charming grin plastered on his face. Chloe, look at you. You look entirely shocked. I told you Blackwood Creek was a slice of heaven, didn't I? Instinctively, a violent tremor racked my body. I pulled my hand away from Martha's rough grip and took a staggering step backward, my back hitting the wooden wall. Mom, the words slipped out of my mouth before I could stop it, and a cold sweat broke out across my spine. I was reborn. I wasn't the broken, emaciated ghost of a woman locked in a root cellar anymore. I wasn't the captive who had been stripped of her clothes, her dignity, and her humanity, reduced to nothing more than a part of a rural lineage. Today was my very first day arriving at Blackwood Creek. I hadn't yet fallen out with Liam and his mother. On the surface, Liam was still my doting, loving boyfriend, and Martha was my hospitable future mother-in-law. A tidal wave of indescribable relief, mingled with a cold, sharp resentment, washed over me. But before I could process it, Martha's hand shot out, her grip clamping down on my wrist with firm force. When she heard me call her Mom, her dull, sunken eyes suddenly sparked with a predatory brightness. Oh, Lord have mercy. My sweet Chloe, hearing you say that just warms my old heart right up. I dug my nails into my palms, desperately trying to control the violent shaking of my body. In my previous life, I was dragged down into their cellar, and broken like a wild horse. I was conditioned through harsh mistreatment. If I saw Martha, I had to address her as Mom immediately. If I saw Liam, I was expected to submit without a word. If I hesitated, I was disciplined with extreme cruelty until I collapsed. That single word, Mom, had been a purely subconscious trauma response. But in Martha's greedy eyes, it was a sign that I was completely devoted to their family, desperately eager to marry into this secluded mountain life. Chloe, I know you grew up in the foster system, and don't have any family of your own, but from this day forward, we are your family, Martha said, her eyes dragging up and down my body with a ravenous hunger. What's ours is yours, and what's yours is ours. That nice condo you bought in Chicago, we should go ahead and put Liam's name on the deed. And then we'll focus on getting you settled. A boy and a girl, back to back. That's the proper way. In my past life, alarm bells had blared in my head the moment I heard these words. What kind of mother-in-law demands access to a woman's premarital real estate on the very first day they meet? I had grown up in the Chicago foster care system, but I fought tooth and nail to get a scholarship, graduate with honors, and land a lucrative job in corporate finance. By 26, I had purchased a beautiful 2-bedroom condo in the Loop and a brand new SUV, fully paid off. When I first started dating Liam, some of my colleagues joked that he was a rural fortune hunter, a guy looking for a benefactor. But for 2 years, Liam never once asked about my money, my car, or my condo. I eventually let my guard down. It wasn't until I met Martha that the mask slipped. She immediately started dictating what would happen to my assets with a terrifying sense of entitlement. That very night in my past life, I had called my best friend Harper to vent. Outside of Liam, Harper was the person I trusted most in the world. When we were kids, Harper was the one who stood up to bullies for me. When the other kids called me an unwanted orphan, she would speak right back to them. But in my last life, when I told Harper that Liam and his mother were looking at me like a piece of livestock, she scoffed. Chloe, you're overthinking it. Just play along. They probably just want to make sure you're committed to the family. Later, when they locked me in the cabin and confiscated my ID, I texted Harper in a panic. Her response: "That just proves they view you as their own. They wouldn't care if you were a stranger." When I failed to conceive and the physical mistreatment began, I managed to call the local county sheriff. The deputies came, shared a drink with Liam on the porch, dismissed it as a domestic dispute, and left. The retaliation from Liam and Martha was unimaginably harsh. When I finally got hold of Harper again, she coldly said, "Chloe, maybe you need to look in the mirror. If even the authorities don't care, maybe you're the problem." I was completely isolated, helpless, and trapped. On the night before they dragged me down into the cellar for good, I took Liam's phone while he slept, and made one last desperate call to Harper. "Harper, please. You have to help me. The local authorities are covering for him. They won't let me contact the state police. I have nothing left. Please. Call the state police. Call anyone. I sent you the GPS coordinates to this cabin a month ago." I had been sobbing, hyperventilating. On the other end of the line, Harper was silent for a long moment. Then, in an incredibly strange, calm voice, she said, "My phone bill is due, and I'm out of minutes. What's your banking app passcode? Let me use some of your money to pay it so we don't get disconnected." That night, as I watched the relentless withdrawal notifications pop up on Liam's phone, my spirit broke. After my phone was confiscated, the constant terror, malnourishment, and Liam's daily mistreatment made it impossible for me to conceive. Realizing my situation was useless, they decided to force me to buy my freedom, but my accounts were empty. Harper had drained every single cent. She was the final blow. Enraged that I had hidden my assets, Liam and Martha consumed moonshine until late and ended my life. My motionless body was left in a ravine deep in the woods. It was only found months later by lost hikers. I had passed away thinking that at least finally, Liam and Martha would face justice. But when the state detectives interviewed Harper, she shrugged. I barely knew her anymore. She probably just went for a hike and fell off a cliff. She was super clumsy. When the police showed her the phone records proving my last call was to her, Harper lied flawlessly. Oh yeah, she called to brag about how happy she was in the country. She didn't say anything about being in danger. I had begged her to save my life. Instead, she shielded my captors. I never understood it. I had given Harper everything. I helped her find jobs, lent her thousands of dollars she never repaid, and dropped everything whenever she needed me. And she had watched me suffer. "Chloe, why are you zoning out?" Martha's voice, laced with a sickly sweet tone, pulled me back to the present. "Are you not happy to stay here with us?" Her tone was flat, completely devoid of emotion, yet it sent a sharp chill straight through my heart. No, I'm thrilled." I forced a wide, bright smile, my heart hammering against my ribs. Liam grew up in this beautiful, untouched wilderness. That's exactly why he's such a strong, incredible man. I definitely want to have our kids here, to raise them in this environment. I had to pacify them. If Martha detected even a hint of dissatisfaction or a desire to escape, she would lock me up immediately. Liam had targeted me specifically because of my orphan status. I had no family to file a missing persons report. If I vanished into these dark Appalachian woods, no one would ever know. Well, almost no one. Harper would know. Martha's dull eyes lit up again, and she shot a smug, satisfied look at Liam. "You foolish boy. Look at how obedient and sweet your girl is. And here you were, worrying she'd be too stuck up for us." "Ahem, Mom." Liam's eyes darted toward me in a panic, sharply cutting his mother off. I seamlessly stepped forward, wrapping my arms around Liam's arm, leaning into him with practiced affection. "I absolutely adore it here, Liam. You really should have brought me home sooner." Martha chuckled, covering her mouth as a flush crept up her neck. "Well, if that's the case, you two might as well share a room tonight. Let me hold my grandbabies sooner rather than later." That night played out exactly as it had in my previous life. Martha took my designer suitcase and my handbag under the guise of keeping them safe from the mountain mice. Didn't you want to text your friend to let her know you made it in one piece? Liam reminded me, leaning against the wooden door frame. Better do it now. It is getting late. And we don't want to wake her. I unlocked my phone and opened my messages. Harper was pinned at the top. Our last text was 3 days ago, when I told her I was leaving for Liam's hometown. She hadn't bothered to reply. I had followed it up by sending her a $500 Venmo transfer just because. She accepted it within 3 seconds and replied with a single word. Cool. Liam stretched his arms over his head and casually mentioned he was going to step outside for a moment. I knew better. He was going to stand right outside the thin glass window to eavesdrop on my call. Liam and Martha were incredibly paranoid, calculating individuals. It would take more than a few sweet words to dismantle their suspicions. After pacing the creaky floorboards for a few minutes, I hit the call button. In my past life, I had FaceTimed Harper, complaining about Martha's bizarre overbearing behavior, the dilapidated state of the cabin, and the sheer isolation of the woods. Harper had eagerly dismissed my fears, telling me off-the-grid living is so trendy right now. You're so lucky, Chloe. As the phone rang, I steadied my breathing. Just as it was about to go to voicemail, Harper picked up. Hello. What do you want? Her voice was flat, dripping with a profound lack of interest. I took a deep breath and injected a huge amount of excitement into my voice. Harper. Oh my God, I made it. Oh great, Harper replied dryly. I just had to call and tell you. It is absolutely gorgeous out here, and his family's property. Harper, you wouldn't believe it. They have several developed mountains, massive timber tracts, and even a few private hunting lodges. I deliberately blurred the lines, making the surrounding Appalachian wilderness sound like Liam's private real estate portfolio. The line went dead silent. For a long moment, when Harper finally spoke, I could practically hear her grinding her teeth. Wait. You're saying his family owns real estate? Like massive land developments? Is he some kind of hidden trust fund kid? I covered the receiver slightly, intentionally ignoring her direct question. There are private fishing lakes, livestock. Honestly, thank God I left my job. I can just relax and be the wealthy Mrs. Liam from now on. On her end of the line, Harper was utterly convinced I was describing a multi-million-dollar estate. Outside the window, Liam heard me praising the natural landscape of Blackwood Creek. Harper's voice shifted, turning dark and hauntingly bitter. Wow. Chloe, you really are just the luckiest person alive, aren't you? You grew up with nothing. A total stray. But you're so smart. You have a great career, the condo. And now you stumble blindly into a secret millionaire. It's honestly infuriating. You aren't taller than me. You aren't as skinny as me. And you definitely aren't as pretty as me. It is just not fair. Listening to the naked jealousy and resentment oozing from the speaker, the puzzle pieces of my past life finally clicked together. She had never been my friend. When I was a destitute foster kid, she liked keeping me around to feel superior. But as I succeeded, built wealth, and found independence, she began to despise me. She only replied to my texts when I sent her money. Whenever I tried to comfort her about her dead-end jobs, she would lash out with passive-aggressive snark. In my past life, when I was locked in that cellar, I had rationalized that even if Harper was too scared to call the authorities, I couldn't blame her. But she hadn't just been scared. She had robbed me blind, taking sick pleasure in my downfall. Yeah, I guess I am lucky. Martha is so sweet to me too. We're going to start planning the wedding soon, I said lightly. You'll have to come out for it. Harper went dead silent. The thought of my continued success was a physical splinter in her mind. Just then, the bedroom door clicked open. Liam walked in, his face glowing with a self-satisfied smirk. I have to go, Harper. Talk later, I said quickly. Wait, Chloe, didn't you say Liam wanted to take me out to dinner to properly meet? Click. I hung up. Chloe, Liam murmured, crossing the room, and wrapping his arms tightly around my waist. I'm not gonna lie, I was worried. I was so scared you'd be like those materialistic city girls who take one look at a rural town and run for the hills. I'm so glad I was wrong about you. I hugged him back, burying my face in his shirt so he couldn't see my eyes. There was no love left in my heart, only ash, surrounded by miles of dense, unforgiving wilderness. I knew I couldn't run. The terrain would overcome me before Liam even had to, and Liam and Martha were the type of predators who wouldn't let go until they had consumed every last drop of resource from me. They wanted a piece of wealth. Fine. I would give them what they wanted. It just wouldn't be mine. The night stretched on. Quiet and thick. As soon as the lights were out, Liam began pulling at me in the dark. I pushed his hands away, shrinking back against the headboard. Liam, stop. Your mom is right in the next room, I whispered, injecting a tremor of modesty into my voice. Liam pulled at the collar of my pajama top, completely indifferent to how loud the old bedspring squeaked. Who cares? What's wrong with you? You were calling her Mom all day like a good girl. I pressed myself further into the corner, faking a shy, embarrassed laugh. That just slipped out. I still have my pride, you know. I don't want her thinking I'm easy. Liam froze. His hands stopped moving. The atmosphere in the room plummeted to freezing. His voice dropped an octave, heavy with suspicion. Chloe, we are together all the time back in Chicago. You're cutting me off now. What? You took a closer look at my rundown house and decided you want to back out. I let out a gasp of exaggerated shock. What? No, how could you say that? Then what is it? You know how much I love you, Chloe. If you really hate my hometown this much, we can pack up and go back to the city tomorrow. I'd do anything for you. His words sounded careless, romantic even, but I knew the truth. It was a test, a deadly one. In my past life I had naively agreed, saying I wanted to go back to Chicago. The very next morning Martha's sweet facade dropped, and she viciously berated me for being an ungrateful, spoiled girl. Liam had backed her up, suddenly claiming he needed to stay a few more weeks to help out around the property. I love it here, I really do. I lied through my teeth, forcing myself to crawl back across the mattress and rest my head against his chest. I'm just scared your mom will think poorly of me if we're loud on my first night. Liam was quiet for a long, agonizing moment. Finally, the tension left his shoulders, and he wrapped his arms around me, his smug demeanor returning. Liam, do you have protection? I asked, my voice small, gripping his forearm. Huh? Why do we need that? Didn't you just tell my mom you wanted to have a family? Liam looked down at me, his brow furrowing in confusion. I forced a tight, uncomfortable smile. Right, of course. It was a long night. The next morning, as the sun broke over the pine canopy, I rushed out to the dirt courtyard and forced myself to dry heave over a wooden bucket. My retching caught the attention of Martha, who was feeding the chickens. She frowned, walking over with a disapproving scowl. Chloe, is your health that weak? You look pale as a ghost. Mom, I think it is just the change in the water. My stomach is in knots, I gasped out, hiding my trembling hands in my pockets. I gave her a weak smile. Do you think I could go into town and buy some medicine? I could absolutely not risk getting pregnant. Even though I hadn't conceived during the entirety of my previous life before they ended my life, I refused to leave it to chance. Martha eyed me suspiciously, her gaze lingering on my stomach. I suppose, but won't taking pills mess up your chances of carrying a baby? Liam walked out onto the porch, stretching his arms, and came up behind me to pat my back. Mom, what are you talking about? It doesn't happen that fast. I wiped my watery eyes, hunching over in exaggerated discomfort. Mom, my body needs to be in peak condition to give you a strong, smart grandson. Right. Besides, even if we are trying, I should really be taking health supplements and vitamins. Hearing the words smart grandson was like a magic switch. Martha's grimace instantly transformed into a beaming smile. You're absolutely right. I'll call a neighbor to drive you two down to the clinic. An hour and a half later, Liam and I were dropped off on the dusty main street of Oakhaven. Liam pointed to a cracked bench outside the small local pharmacy. You wait here. I'll go in and grab the stomach meds. I touched my stomach, my mind racing. Even though I was playing the role of the perfectly submissive girlfriend, Liam was still deeply paranoid. He didn't want me speaking to the pharmacist alone. Let me come with you, I said cheerfully, looping my arm through his. I did some research online, and there are specific vitamins I want to look for. We can pick them out together. Liam hesitated, his eyes narrowing slightly, but he eventually nodded. Inside, the pharmacy was cramped and smelled of rubbing alcohol and old dust. As we walked down the narrow aisles, I kept my eyes peeled, casually scanning the shelves. Finally, tucked away on a bottom shelf in the corner, I spotted the health products. Just as I reached out my hand, Liam materialized right behind my shoulder. What are you looking for, Chloe? My heart slammed against my ribcage. If he caught me trying to buy personal health items he disapproved of, my entire facade would crumble, and the harsh treatment would start today. Without thinking, I threw my weight sideways, crashing hard into the metal shelving unit. Crash! The rack tipped, sending dozens of plastic bottles clattering to the floor. As I fell to my knees, using the chaos as cover, I snatched a box of health products and shoved them deep into the sleeve of my oversized cardigan. Geez, you scared me, I cried out, clutching my arm as if I had bruised it, looking down at the mess. Oh my God, I am so clumsy, I'm so sorry. The pharmacy owner stormed over, his face flushed with anger. Liam had to put on his best charm and slip the man a $50 bill to smooth things over before we were allowed to leave. On the vehicle ride back up the mountain, Liam's mood was sour. You get spooked by your own shadow, you trip over your own 2 feet. Your physical health really is incredibly weak, Chloe. I kept my hand pressed against my sleeve, feeling the sharp cardboard edge of the box against my skin. I'll focus on getting my health up, I promise, I murmured absent-mindedly. Liam shot me a sideways glance, his lip curling slightly. You know, you're nothing like your friend. Harper, right? She is built well, wide hips, curves. She looks like she could handle family life without falling apart. I froze. I slowly turned my head to stare at Liam. A few months ago, I had shown him a photo of Harper. At the time, I had proudly told him that my best friend was a total knockout, a vibrant woman. Liam had immediately insisted we all get dinner together. But Harper, believing Liam was just some broke country guy holding me back, refused to meet him. I didn't want to hurt Liam's feelings, so I lied and said she was just swamped with work. Chloe, don't get the wrong idea, all I meant was, Liam started, suddenly realizing he had spoken his intrusive thoughts out loud. Actually, I interrupted, a slow, brilliant smile spreading across my face. Why don't we invite her here to keep me company? She just told me yesterday. She's been dying for a chance to finally have dinner with you. Liam's eyes widened, and a flash of unadulterated, predatory greed crossed his face. 3 days later, Harper stood at the edge of the dirt driveway, panting heavily as she dragged a suitcase over the gravel. A purse swung from her shoulder. She wiped a bead of sweat from her forehead, glaring at me with profound annoyance. You didn't say it was this far in the boonies, Chloe. Good God, my shoes are ruined. And where is this man of yours? Shouldn't he be out here carrying my bags? I took her heavy suitcase with a polite, gentle smile. He's just up ahead at the cabin. When he heard you were coming, he had his mom start preparing a massive meal. He wanted everything to be perfect. Instantly, Harper's demeanor shifted. She ran a hand through her hair, touched up her lip gloss and smiled, her lips curving into a playful pout. Oh, stop it. Making the wealthy boy go out of his way to cater to me. I almost feel bad. Harper, remember what we talked about, I whispered, leaning in conspiratorially. Liam is incredibly low-key. He hates flashy behavior, and he hates people talking about his family's money. Whatever you do, do not mention his trust fund, or the real estate out here. He absolutely despises fortune hunters. I know, I get it. Harper rolled her eyes, adjusting her neckline. But honestly, Chloe, look at you. You haven't changed since college. You don't wear makeup. You dress so simply. How on earth are you supposed to keep a wealthy man's attention looking like that? I just smiled and kept walking in silence. As we approached the cabin, Harper caught sight of Liam leaning against the porch railing. Liam was undeniably good, looking in a rugged sort of way. Today, He had gone out of his way to wear a clean light blue button-down shirt that rolled up over his forearms, making him look surprisingly polished. In my past life, no matter how much I begged, Harper had refused to meet Liam. But the second she hallucinated that he was a secret millionaire land baron, she practically invited herself. "You must be Liam." Harper blinked her eyes, strutting forward with an exaggerated sway. She extended a manicured hand. "It is so nice to finally meet you in person." Liam was completely starstruck. His eyes locked onto her face, then slowly dragged down her figure. He looked like he had been struck by lightning. It took him a long, awkward moment to finally reach out and shake her hand. Harper was undeniably striking, but none of it was natural. 2 years ago, she had cried to me about her insecurities, and I had foolishly lent her $10,000 for cosmetic enhancements. When I gently asked for the money back months later, she laughed it off, saying besties don't let money ruin their friendship. "Besides, you make 6 figures, Chloe. You don't even need it." I had let it go. "Wow, nice to meet you," Liam breathed, his eyes glittering with undisguised interest. "Chloe talks about you all the time. I gotta say, you're even more stunning in person." Liam was charming when he wanted to be. Within 3 sentences he had Harper giggling like a schoolgirl. The two of them immediately clicked, walking side by side, up the porch steps, completely ignoring me. I was left struggling to lug her heavy suitcase up the wooden stairs alone. Inside, Martha's eyes practically lit up when she saw Harper. She grabbed Harper's hands, admiring her smooth skin and manicured nails. Next to Harper's artificial curves and flawless makeup, I looked like a scrawny, tired girl. "You live so humbly, Martha," Harper said, eyeing the dilapidated wood stove and peeling wallpaper with a faux sweet smile. She shot a glance at me. "Chloe tells me she's going to be staying home full-time soon, once the babies come. I imagine you'll be hiring a whole team of helpers, right?" I continued pouring their sweet tea and setting the table, acting completely oblivious. I knew Harper was testing the waters, trying to verify the family's wealth, but Martha, entirely captivated by the striking woman in front of her, didn't miss a beat. She started handing out empty promises like candy. "Oh Harper, sweetie, the Lord works in mysterious ways. Let me tell you, whoever blesses this family with a strong, healthy baby boy, well, they will be taken care of for the rest of their natural life. They won't ever have to lift a finger." Liam's face paled slightly, and he tugged at Martha's sleeve, coughing to shut her up. But I kept a pleasant, calm smile plastered on my face, pretending I hadn't heard a thing. Over the next few days I played the role of the dutiful helper, waiting on Harper hand and foot. Martha continued to spin wild, grand tales about the family's future, fully convincing Harper that she had struck a goldmine. That night, I turned off the bedside lamp and pulled the quilt up to my chin. As I lay in the dark, hovering between wakefulness and sleep, something felt off. It took me a few minutes to realize what it was. Liam wasn't snoring. Normally he was out like a light, snoring heavily within minutes of his head hitting the pillow. But tonight the room was dead silent. A jolt of adrenaline flushed the exhaustion from my veins. I kept my eyes closed, forcing my breathing to remain slow and steady. An hour later, the mattress shifted. Liam slipped out of bed with practiced silence. Moments later, from the guest bedroom on the other side of the thin wall, I heard Harper's muffled giggles. There was the hushed whispering of 2 people who thought they were being clever. Then came the aggressive, rhythmic movement of the guest bed. I stared into the pitch-black room, visualizing Liam's desperate expression. For a country boy like him, a woman with Harper's polished, artificial glamour was someone entirely out of his league. Now that she was throwing herself at him, eager to take the imaginary millionaire from her best friend, Liam was acting entirely without restraint. And on the other side of the cabin, separated only by thin wooden planks, Martha slept soundly. Or rather, she pretended to. I sneered in the dark. Martha definitely heard them. She just didn't care. In her twisted mind, her son was conquering another woman. To her, it was a victory. The longer I lay there, the more utterly repulsive the 3 of them became. An hour later, Liam crept back into our room. He slid under the covers and wrapped his arm around my waist, pulling me against his chest. The distinct smell of cheap vanilla perfume clung to his skin. I squeezed my eyes shut, fighting down the urge to recoil, and pretended to be dead asleep. For the next several nights, Liam used the excuse of being exhausted from yard work to avoid touching me. Then, the moment I feigned sleep, he would sneak out and crawl into Harper's bed. I played the fool. Immensely relieved, I didn't have to endure his touch. The next morning, Harper walked into the kitchen with a smug, satisfied smile. Despite the heavy makeup she applied, the dark circles under her eyes from multiple sleepless nights were obvious. Martha was ladling out breakfast, her face lighting up when she saw Harper. "Morning, sweetie. Come sit down. I made fresh biscuits and gravy, and I cooked up the eggs I just pulled from the coop this morning." Liam sat at the table, his face a mask of casual indifference. "Eat up, everyone," I pouted, injecting a tone of fake jealousy into my voice. "Harper, you are so lucky. Mom told me those fresh farm eggs were strictly for her, and she wouldn't even let me touch them." Harper confidently linked her arm through Martha's, beaming. "Martha is just the absolute best. Honestly, I feel like she's my own mother." Martha's wrinkled face flushed with pride. She patted Harper's hand affectionately before shooting me a cold glare. "Well, some people just eat up all the food and don't contribute. Giving good food to a freeloader is just a waste of money." I kept my eyes on my plate, a small smile on my lips. I had been at Blackwood Creek for over a month now. During that first week, before the pharmacy incident, Liam and I hadn't used any protection yet. My period was late, and I knew deep down I wasn't pregnant. Now, with the curvy, sweet-talking Harper constantly strutting around as a point of comparison, Martha's disdain for me was boiling over. "Mom, that is enough. Just eat," Liam muttered, shooting his mother a warning look. Martha ignored him, entirely focused on shoveling more food onto Harper's plate. These two women were terrifying in their own unique ways. Martha was a ruthless backwoods sociopath. If you crossed her, she wouldn't hesitate to ruin you. Harper was a parasitic narcissist. She would bleed you dry and step on your throat to get ahead, without a shred of remorse. I couldn't help but wonder, what would Martha do when she found out Harper's figure was entirely made of surgical enhancements? What would she do when she realized the rosy flush on Harper's cheeks was high-end makeup, and her natural beauty was the result of a surgeon's scalpel? And what would Harper do when she finally realized she had betrayed her best friend, not for a secret billionaire trust fund, but for a violent, backwoods man with a rotting cabin? "By the way, Chloe," Liam said suddenly, wiping his mouth with a napkin, "when are we heading to the courthouse to get the marriage license? You said once you bonded with my mom, we'd make it official." Harper chimed in instantly, her eyes flashing with a sharp gleam. "Oh my God, yes, Chloe. We have to start planning. I call maid of honor." I paused, looking at Harper's overly enthusiastic face and Liam's suspiciously tight expression. A realization washed over me. Liam was a brief encounter on his best days. Yet last night he had been in Harper's room for over an hour. They weren't just being intimate. They were whispering, scheming. They wanted to trick me into signing the marriage certificate and transferring the deed of my Chicago condo to Liam's name. Once the paperwork was finalized, I would suffer a tragic accident in the woods, and with me out of the way, my assets would legally belong to them, and Harper would slide right into my place as the new partner. "We just need to pick a good date. But I'll need to go back to Chicago to get my birth certificate, my social security card, and the property deed," I said with a gentle, naive smile. "Oh Harper, your vacation is almost up, right? This is perfect. We can take the bus back to the city together." Harper's hand froze around her coffee mug. Her eyes darted frantically toward Liam. She didn't actually have a corporate job. She had been unemployed for 6 months. She only lied about having a high-paying job at a firm to impress Liam and Martha. Claiming she had taken 3 weeks of paid vacation just to visit, she let out a dry, awkward laugh, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Right, the vacation is almost over. But you know, my boss actually just approved me for remote work. I can totally stay here and work from my laptop." Liam's eyes lit up with excitement. "That's amazing news." Martha nodded vigorously. "Harper, you are just so smart and capable. A beautiful girl with a high-paying city job. Any family would be blessed to have you. As she said it, Martha cast a disgusted glance at me. Unlike some people, who just sit around all day doing nothing, draining our resources, I bit my tongue, suppressing the urge to react. It was Liam who had relentlessly begged me to leave my high-paying corporate job to move to his hometown. It was Martha who had insisted I sleep in late, stop exercising, and rest my body for a family. Now, I was the burden. And yet, these people were actively conspiring to take my condo and car. Mom, Liam snapped, shooting her a dark look. Can you stop, Liam? Don't speak to your mother that way. Harper scolded playfully, before turning to Martha with a sweet smile. Mom, how about I stay here, and keep you company while they go? Martha nodded enthusiastically, her eyes dropping down to rest on Harper's figure. Yes, honestly. I can't rely on this son of mine anyway. As long as I have you, Harper, I'm happy. Harper wrapped her arms around Martha's neck. Chloe, you just go on ahead. I'll wait right here for you. It's only a 2-day trip anyway, right? Of course. I replied with an easy smile. You work so hard, Harper. You deserve to relax and enjoy the fresh air. As I spoke, I shifted my gaze to Liam. Normally, Liam would have insisted on shadowing my every move. He wouldn't let me out of his sight, especially when retrieving legal documents. But with Harper practically begging to stay in his bed, he looked completely torn. Martha's shrewd eyes darted back and forth between Liam and Harper. Suddenly, she changed her tune. You know, come to think of it, I've never actually been to a big city like Chicago. Liam, why don't you stay here and take care of Harper? I'll go with Chloe. I scoffed internally. The mother-son duo was trying to get everything. They wanted to secure my real estate, while keeping Harper firmly trapped in their web. Liam practically vibrated with excitement, exchanging a quick look with Harper. Right. Yeah, that makes sense. We'll hold down the fort here until you two get back. Perfect, I said, a genuine smile finally reaching my eyes. Don't worry, Liam, I'll take great care of Mom. Without Martha physically present to rally the locals, there was a glaring opportunity. If I could just get out of this lawless mountain range and make it to the city, Martha wouldn't have her army of backwoods enablers. Once we were on my turf, she wouldn't have the power to stop me. That evening, I began packing my suitcase. Liam leaned against the doorframe, watching my every move with paranoid eyes. Do you really need to bring all of that stuff just for a 2-day trip? My scalp prickled with anxiety. I smoothly changed the trajectory of my hand, taking the expensive face creams and designer blouses out of the suitcase and placing them gently into a dresser drawer. I'm not taking them with me, silly. I'm just putting them away so they don't get dusty while I'm gone. Liam grunted, seemingly satisfied, looking at the brand new suitcase I had bought for this trip, and the thousands of dollars worth of clothes and cosmetics I was forced to leave behind. My heart ached, but I shoved the drawer shut. Material things didn't matter. My life did. Chloe, my mom has never been to a city before. You need to stick by her side every second, or she'll get lost, Liam ordered, his tone shifting to a cold command. And make sure you take her to the condo to show her around. She'll be moving in with us eventually, so she needs to get used to the layout. In my previous life, when Liam had casually announced that his abrasive mother would be moving into my 2-bedroom condo, I had pushed back. I told him I had worked my whole life for that house, and I wanted it to just be the two of us. I argued that the space was meant for us and our future, not his mother. Liam had exploded. He had screamed that I was a selfish, ungrateful person who never intended to truly become part of his family. Later, when they locked me in the cellar, he would bring it up every time he mistreated me, using it as justification. Absolutely. I nodded without a moment's hesitation. I think Mom moving in is a wonderful idea. With both of us there to take care of her, I'll feel so much better. Liam smiled, thoroughly satisfied, and reached out to pat my hair. Don't you worry, son. Chloe and I will grab those documents and be right back, Martha said from the living room, her eyes narrowing as she picked up the clunky landline phone. She dialed a number rapidly. I just talked to your uncle, Martha shouted through the thin walls. He's bringing the vehicle around at 4 in the morning to take us down the mountain trail. It takes 2 hours to get to the base. And then we catch the local van to the bus station. We should be in Chicago by tomorrow afternoon before the sun sets. I pressed my nails into my palms to contain my surging excitement. In my past life I had tried to escape. I had snuck into the kitchen and used Martha's phone to call a local transport service in the valley. But the moment the dispatcher heard a woman's voice asking for a pickup at Blackwood Creek, he hung up on me. Martha caught me and starved me for 2 days in the dark. A month later, pushed to the brink, I found the keys to a neighbor's rusted vehicle near the woods. I took it thinking I had finally found my salvation, but as I navigated the winding, treacherous mountain roads, staring down sheer drops with no guardrails, on a path barely wide enough for a single tire, pure terror overtook me. I had no off-road driving experience. I was going to slide off the mountain. Worse still, I had only made it 30 minutes down the trail before a passing logger recognized me. He immediately called Martha. What followed was a month of relentless mistreatment. That was when I realized the horrifying truth. You cannot escape this mountain by running. Any clever trick, any frantic sprint, is utterly useless against the perilous geography and a village of locals who operate as a unified complicit group. By the time I realized this in my past life, I had completely burned through Liam and Martha's trust. They locked me away, and no amount of begging or forced obedience ever convinced them to let me out again. Chloe, what are you spacing out for? Liam waved a hand in front of my face, his brow furrowing. You look pale. I snapped back to reality and offered a soft smile. It is nothing. Just thinking about the trip. Martha scoffed from the hallway and headed for her bedroom. All right, enough chit-chat. Get to sleep, we have to be up early tomorrow. Liam closed our bedroom door and stepped close to me. His eyes filled with mock concern. Chloe, are you jealous of Harper, huh? I looked up at him belatedly, realizing he interpreted my pale, detached demeanor as jealousy. No, not at all. Liam looked half convinced. He took my hands in his, lowering his voice to a gentle whisper. Harper is just a guest, Chloe. We have to be polite and cater to her. Sometimes my mom speaks without thinking. But you know you're the one I care about. Don't take it to heart. I quietly slipped my hands out of his grasp and looked him dead in the eyes with absolute sincerity. I'm thrilled Harper is here to keep you company. I couldn't be happier. Really? Liam's eyes flickered with suspicion. I nodded vigorously. Of course. If it were up to me, I'd want her to stay here with us forever, and that was the absolute, honest truth. Perhaps because my tone was so unwavering, Liam's suspicions finally faded. Good. That night, Liam didn't try to sneak off to the guest room. Instead, he pulled me down onto the mattress. Chloe, it'll be so incredible when we have a family of our own, he murmured into my ear, his hands reaching under my shirt. You'll stay home and take care of the house, and I'll work and provide for us. I fought back the discomfort rising in my throat. Let's talk about it later, Liam. We have to be up early. It is fine, we can sleep on the bus, Liam insisted, his grip on my wrists tightening. We haven't been together in a while. Just as I scrambled to find an excuse, a loud, deliberate series of coughs echoed from Harper's room through the wall. Ahem. Ahem. Liam froze instantly. His hands stopped moving. He stared at the wall, a look of profound conflict crossing his face. After a long, tense minute, he rolled off of me and lay on his back. You're right, we should rest, he said, trying to mask his sudden change of heart. If I don't treat you well, who will? I let out a long, silent breath of relief. Harper was incredibly possessive. When we were kids, she wouldn't let me have any other friends. If we went shopping and we both liked the same shirt, only she was allowed to buy it. I wasn't allowed to match her. As we got older, if she even glanced at a guy with interest, I was expected to permanently distance myself from him. Even now, fully aware that Liam and I were supposedly getting married, Harper's ego convinced her that as long as she wanted him, I should gracefully step aside and let her monopolize him. She couldn't stand the thought of Liam touching me, and I was more than happy to let her have him. The bus ride was a grueling journey, but as we finally stepped out onto the bustling streets of downtown Chicago, The blinding afternoon sun felt like a spotlight of salvation. Good Lord. Look at all this. Martha stood on the crowded sidewalk, her arms crossed, staring up at the towering glass skyscrapers of the Loop with unabashed greed. Look at the cars, the people, all this money. I stood behind her, struggling under the weight of two massive heavy canvas bags filled with mason jars of pickled vegetables, and a sack of dirty, unwashed potatoes Martha had insisted we bring. Sweat dripped down my forehead, stinging my eyes, and my arms ached violently. Yet, beneath the physical exhaustion, an uncontrollable excitement roared in my chest. To Martha, I had only been gone from the city for a month, but in my mind, I had been trapped in that lightless Appalachian hellscape for years, starved, confined, broken. No matter how hard I had fought, I couldn't escape those mountains. Now, I was finally out. For a brief second, I wanted to drop the heavy bags on the concrete, run to the nearest police cruiser, and scream for them to arrest Liam and his mother, but sanity quickly clamped down on the impulse. I couldn't do that. I had no physical evidence of crimes that, in this timeline, hadn't technically happened yet. If I claimed they were going to harm me based on a past life, I would be placed in a medical facility. My words alone wouldn't hold up legally, and more importantly, Harper hadn't faced consequences yet. If I just walked away now, Liam and Martha would realize I had played them. They would hunt me down. I would spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder, waiting for the day they dragged me back to the woods. And Harper, cunning, vicious Harper, would likely team up with them again. I wiped the sweat from my brow. I couldn't just run. I needed to dismantle them. I needed to redirect Liam and Martha's predatory focus entirely onto Harper. I needed them to turn on each other. Mom, can I go grab a bottle of cold water from that stand? I asked, my throat painfully dry, looking longingly at a nearby vendor. Water? You have to pay for water here, Martha snapped, glaring at me. Absolutely not. We brought perfectly good cucumbers. Eat one of those. I looked down at the plastic bag of bruised, smashed cucumbers that had been rolling around with dirty napkins and lint at the bottom of her bag. The mere sight of them made my stomach turn. I can't eat that. Fine. Have an egg, Martha grumbled angrily. You're spending my son's money, and you're not even his wife yet. I won't tolerate wastefulness. She dug into her pocket and pulled out a hard-boiled egg she had cooked days ago. Using her thumbnail, she cracked the shell, split it in half, and shoved it toward my face. Eat it before you starve. The overwhelming stench of the old egg hit my nose, mixing with the smell of the city exhaust. I couldn't hold it back. I retched violently, doubling over onto the pavement. Martha immediately jumped back in disgust. She was about to yell at me when suddenly, a spark of realization lit up her dull eyes. Wait, Chloe, she gasped, stepping closer. When was the last time you had your time of the month? I froze, wiping my tearing eyes. I was about to answer when it hit me. In my past life, my period had arrived right on schedule. But this time, it was already 2 weeks late. A cold panic seized my chest. Oh, praise the Lord, you're expecting. Martha practically cheered with joy, clapping her rough hands together. My boy is so strong. Since we're already in the big city, we are going to find a doctor and get my grandson checked out right away. I forced myself to stand straight, my mind racing. I knew for a fact I wasn't expecting. Since Harper arrived, Liam hadn't touched me. The delay had to be from the sheer psychological terror and stress of being reborn into this nightmare. Martha grabbed the heavy bags from my hands, her demeanor entirely transformed. We'll just grab your documents, go straight back, and you two can sign the marriage papers. With you carrying my grandson, we won't even need a fancy wedding. I stayed silent, a new, darker plan forming in my mind. An hour later we arrived at my 2-bedroom condo in the South Loop. I had deliberately avoided bringing Martha here, but I knew Liam already had the address and the spare key. If I was going to disappear, I couldn't keep the property anyway. While on the subway, I had secretly texted the real estate broker, who originally sold me the place, telling him I needed an immediate cash buyer within 24 hours. It is so small, Martha sneered, dropping the bags on the hardwood floor and poking her head into the kitchen. Like a little cage. It is just a starter home, Mom. Nothing like your property. I lied smoothly. That is for sure, she grunted. She walked straight to the living room, plopped down on the expensive leather sofa, and without missing a beat, reached into the bottom drawer of the coffee table, pulling out a bag of mixed nuts I kept hidden there. She kicked off her shoes and began eating them like she owned the place. I stared at her from the hallway. Martha had never been to Chicago in her life. Yet, she knew exactly where I kept the snacks in my living room. The realization was like a punch to the gut. Liam. He must have brought her here on a video call, giving her a virtual tour, bragging about the condo he was planning to take. Going through my drawers, he had already mentally claimed my home as his trophy. Taking a deep breath, I walked into the master bedroom, pulled my birth certificate, social security card, and the property deed out of my safe. I walked over to the window, cracked it open, and casually dropped the envelope down into the dense landscaping bushes 3 stories below. What are you doing? Martha's sharp voice barked from the doorway. I turned around smoothly, my expression perfectly calm. The air is a little stale in here since I've been gone. Just opening the window to let a breeze in. Mom, oh. Martha eyed me suspiciously, her gaze darting around the bedroom. Listen, Chloe. Since we're going to be one family soon, I need to know the truth. Are you absolutely sure you don't have any living relatives? No estranged aunts or uncles? I paused, offering her a sweet, innocent smile. Well, I don't have blood relatives, Mom, but I have Harper. She is the closest thing I have to family. Martha's tense shoulders relaxed slightly. Ah, Harper. She is a good girl. She is. I chirped, leaning against the windowsill. And she is incredibly blessed too. Martha raised an eyebrow. Blessed? Oh, definitely. Last year, Harper and I took a trip to New Orleans. We went to this famous psychic in the French Quarter. The woman looked at Harper's palms and told her that her aura was tied to intense energy. She said Harper was destined to have at least 3 strong sons, and that they would all grow up to be incredibly successful men. Martha's jaw practically dropped, her eyes widening with absolute awe. I knew it. I took one look at those wide hips and that glowing skin, and I knew she was built to carry boys. I suppressed a smile, adopting a mournful, melancholic expression. Yeah, but the psychic wasn't so kind to me. She looked at my lifeline and told me I have a fragile health. She said I was destined to only ever have one child, and it would definitely be a girl. To be clear, the psychic was just a street performer looking for tips. Harper, obsessed with her vanity, had eaten up the flattery and bragged about her future sons for months. The performer had dismissed me because I refused to pay $50 for a reading, sneering that I'd just have a daughter and live a boring life. What? Martha shrieked, dropping the handful of nuts onto the carpet. You can only have a girl. Why didn't Liam tell me this? I blinked innocently. Liam said he didn't care about gender. He said a daughter was just as good as a son. So I didn't think it was important. Not important. Martha's eyes darted down to my stomach with sudden visceral disgust. Bad luck, bad luck. It is fake. It has to be fake. My grandson is in there. It has to be a boy. I let the silence hang, letting the idea seep into her backward mind. Then, I began pretending to search my drawers in a panic. Oh no. Mom. I can't find my documents. I must have left them in a safety deposit box at the bank. We'll have to go to the state registry office tomorrow to get replacement copies. We have to stay the night. Why does everything have to be so difficult in the city? Martha groaned, crossing her arms in frustration. I know, I'm sorry. It is not like the country, there is just so much red tape. I sighed apologetically. If we left today, I wouldn't have time to sell the condo. I needed the delay. I could see the suspicion brewing behind Martha's eyes. But my act was flawless enough to keep her from acting on it. That night, Martha claimed the guest bedroom. Through the thin walls, I could hear her pacing and whispering frantically on her cell phone. I could only catch fragments of the conversation. Harper boys. Make sure. Get the papers. With me out of the picture, Liam was undoubtedly spending his nights in Harper's bed, completely forgetting his fiancée. Meanwhile, I sat in the dark of my bedroom, staring at the glowing screen of my phone. The real estate broker had texted me back. Because I had listed the condo for significantly under market value. He had 3 immediate cash offers. One was a young couple looking for a starter home. Another was an elderly woman looking to downsize. The third was a man named Sal, a notoriously tough flipper connected to the city's rougher elements. The broker sent a follow-up text. I highly recommend the young couple Chloe. They'll take good care of the place. The cash buyer, Sal. He is tough to deal with. He usually buys places, guts them, and turns them into cramped boarding houses. He completely alters the properties. I only have to present his offer because of a legal obligation. I typed my reply without a second thought. I need the cash wired by 9 a.m. tomorrow. Tell Sal we have a deal. The next morning, I woke up early. Martha was already awake, tearing through the kitchen cabinets, looking for food. When I stepped into the living room, I almost laughed at the mess. My beautiful white area rug was covered in muddy boot prints, because Martha had refused to take her shoes off. My decorative plant had been knocked over, soil spilled everywhere, and one of my glass art pieces lay broken on the floor. I didn't care. It wasn't my problem anymore. I'm going to run down to the local registry office to get in line early, I told Martha, slipping on a coat and a pair of dark sunglasses. I'll be right back. I took the service elevator to avoid any chance of Martha spotting me from the balcony. I hailed a cab and sped to a diner on the edge of the city limits, where the broker had arranged the meeting. The broker looked nervous, sweating in his suit, as he sat across from a heavily built, intimidating man with a leather jacket. Sal. Sorry I'm late, I said briskly, sliding into the booth and dropping my handbag on the table. I don't have much time. Let's get the paperwork signed. Sal leaned back, chewing on a toothpick, his dark eyes analyzing me from behind the tinted lenses of my sunglasses. Well, selling a prime piece of real estate in the Loop for pennies on the dollar, dressed like you're hiding from someone. You running from a bad debt, sweetheart. Or a bad man. The broker practically cleared his throat nervously. Sal, please. I met Sal's gaze without flinching. I'm running from a monster, Sal. Do you have a problem with that? Sal pulled the toothpick from his teeth and chuckled, a rough sound. I like you, kid. You got spine. Nah, I don't have a problem. Your money is ready. I skimmed the legal documents, verified the wire transfer into my account, and signed my name on the dotted lines. I just threw away hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity, but staring at the cash balance on my phone, I felt nothing but power. Money meant nothing if I was trapped in a cellar. Pleasure doing business with you, I said, standing up. I just need 3 more days in the unit to clear out my things. After that, you can tear the place down for all I care. Sal reached into his jacket and slid a sleek black business card across the table. If you're dealing with monsters, sweetheart. My guys do a lot of freelance work. Evictions, collections, problem solving. Very discreet. Very reasonably priced. I looked at the card, a slow smile spreading across my face. I picked it up. Actually, Sal, there is a performance I need to cast for today, and I need actors who know how to play a role. For the next hour, I visited a legitimate hospital downtown and paid for a rapid blood test. The results were exactly as I expected. Negative. I wasn't expecting. I sat on a park bench, staring at the medical printout, my hands trembling slightly. Even the thought of carrying Liam's child made my skin crawl. Once my nerves settled, I pulled out my phone and dialed the number on Sal's card. I explained exactly what I needed. Sal laughed and quoted me a price, promising that his guys ran a facility in the suburbs and could put on a show worthy of an award. I wired him the payment immediately. This was the final act. Meanwhile, deep in the Appalachian Mountains of Blackwood Creek, Harper lay tangled in the bedsheets looking at Liam. You're so bold, Liam, she purred. As soon as Chloe leaves, you come right into my room. Liam rolled over, a dark look in his eyes. You don't like it, Harper giggled. I just wish I had Chloe's luck. She gets to marry into your family and be a wealthy housewife. Who wouldn't want to marry into all this wealth? Liam's expression faltered for a fraction of a second. Well, Honestly, my family isn't exactly. He wanted to tell the truth. He wanted to admit that the land belonged to the logging company, that he was practically broke, and the cabin was falling apart. But looking down at this city girl gazing at him with such admiration, his ego won out. He swallowed the truth and smiled confidently, accepting the lie. Suddenly, Harper's phone rang sharply on the nightstand. She picked it up, her tone slipping immediately into an arrogant drawl. "Hello, what do you mean the property transfer failed?" Harper suddenly sat up, clutching the sheets. "Which property?" "No, my condo isn't in that neighborhood." Liam stared at her, his eyes widening in shock. You are completely incompetent." Harper shouted into the phone, playing her role to the hilt. "Do you know who I am? It is a $2 million penthouse. I will report you for this. The shoes I'm wearing cost more than your salary." She slammed the phone down, breathing with fake rage. She turned to Liam, realizing he was staring at her with unabashed awe. "Sorry," she muttered, pretending to be embarrassed. "Property managers. They're all terrible." Liam slowly wrapped his arms around her waist, his heart pounding. "So, you don't care about marrying a rich guy, because you're already rich?" Harper thought about the maxed-out credit cards in her purse and the collection notices sitting in her mailbox back home. She lifted her chin arrogantly. Obviously, two greedy, delusional individuals, lying through their teeth to trap each other in a web of deceit. "Back in Chicago. Where on earth have you been?" Martha demanded as I walked through the door, waving my replacement documents. "I was at the registry office, Mom," I said. "But remember I said we needed to get checked. I managed to pull some strings and get a walk-in appointment with a doctor in the city. We have to go right now." Martha grumbled about the cost, but her obsession with a grandson won out. We took a cab to a strip mall on the outskirts of the city. The sign above the door read Hope Women's Clinic, but the lobby looked like it hadn't been updated in decades. "This is the clinic?" Martha asked, looking around the waiting room in disbelief. "The doctor is very experienced," I assured her, leading the way toward a steep flight of concrete stairs leading to the examination rooms. As I reached the third step, I intentionally feigned slipping. I threw myself backward, tumbling hard down the concrete steps. As I hit the ground, I reached into the pocket of my coat and crushed the theatrical prop pack I had hidden there. Instantly, dark stains soaked through my pants, pooling onto the floor. Martha let out a scream, stumbling backward. "Chloe. Oh my God, the baby, my grandson." Immediately, 3 nurses and a doctor, all associates of Sal, rushed out from the back, shouting medical terminology. They loaded me onto a stretcher and rushed me behind a set of double doors, leaving a panicked Martha in the hallway. An hour later, the doctor, a guy Sal used for these situations, walked out into the waiting room, looking grim. I had already provided him with payment. "Are you the mother-in-law?" the doctor asked coldly. "Yes." "How is my grandson?" Martha demanded, grabbing his lapels. "I'm sorry," the doctor said, shaking his head. "The fall was too severe. The pregnancy has ended. And for the record, the examination showed it was a female fetus, a girl." Martha's frantic expression instantly went blank. A girl. Worse," the doctor continued, pulling out a stack of fake X-rays and medical charts. "The trauma caused severe complications. Her system is heavily scarred. I'm afraid she will never be able to conceive a child again." Martha stared at the charts, her mind reeling. The psychic's prophecy echoed in her head. One child, a girl. Now the girl was gone, and Chloe was unable to carry a child. To a woman like Martha, I was now less than useless. I was defective. "You quack. She slipped on your stairs." Martha suddenly screamed, her shock instantly replaced by greed. "You caused this. You're going to pay us for this." The doctor sighed, playing his part perfectly. "Ma'am, we don't want any legal trouble. To avoid a lawsuit, the clinic is willing to offer you a $500 settlement, provided you sign a strict non-disclosure agreement right now." Martha didn't hesitate. Her eyes lit up at the mention of cash. She snatched the pen and signed the NDA immediately, stuffing the 5 bills into her pocket. Inside the fake hospital room, I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Waiting. My phone buzzed. It was Harper. Oh my God, Chloe. Liam's mom just called him. Harper's voice came through the speaker, dripping with fake sympathy. I am so sorry about what happened. Liam must be so disappointed. I whispered, forcing a sob. I just need to rest and try again. Harper let out a long, dramatic sigh. Oh, Chloe, you don't know, do you? The doctor told Martha. Your physical system is ruined. You're completely unable to have kids. Before I could respond, she let out a loud gasp of mock horror. Oops. Oh my God. I wasn't supposed to say anything. Liam told me to keep it a secret to protect your feelings. It is fine, Chloe. Liam cares about you, Harper said, though she couldn't hide the cruel, gloating laughter bubbling in her throat. I'm sure he won't mind that you're completely broken. Beep. The call abruptly disconnected. Liam must have taken the phone out of her hand. I lowered the phone from my ear. A cold, genuine smile breaking across my face. The stage was set. The curtain was rising on the final act. Let's go, Martha said, walking back into the waiting room with a cold, unreadable expression. The baby is gone. Let's just get you back to the condo to rest. I clutched my stomach, my face pale, feigning pain. Mom, my stomach hurts so badly. Can I just stay in the city for a few days to recover? Stay here and pay for a hotel? Absolutely not. Martha snapped, her voice dropping into a harsh whisper. You don't need a wheelchair. You can walk. Just deal with it. I lowered my head, adopting the posture of a broken victim. Okay, Martha crossed her arms, looking at me with thinly veiled contempt. Just hurry up and grab your replacement documents, so we can register the marriage. Then you need to sign the condo and your SUV over to Liam. You're lucky he cares about you, Chloe. Most men wouldn't marry a woman who can't carry a child. I looked up at her, tears welling in my eyes. Mom, the nurse just whispered to me. She said I can never have children again. Is it true? Martha paused, her jaw tightening. She had a big mouth, but yes, it is true. I let out a loud, agonizing sob, leaning heavily against the wall. Then it is true. I'm useless. I can't even give Liam a child. How can I call myself a woman? I'm just a burden. Martha's eyes flickered with a fleeting ounce of hesitation, quickly overshadowed by calculation. Chloe, now. Don't overreact. No, I don't deserve Liam. I cried out, tears streaming down my cheeks. I don't deserve to be a part of your family. Mom, you shouldn't want me anymore. I'm not as healthy as Harper. I'm not as beautiful as her, and I definitely can't give you the grandson she could. Martha stared at my distress, the wheels turning visibly in her head, as she weighed my words. I saw the exact moment she made her decision. A woman unable to carry children, even with money, was one thing. But a beautiful, fertile woman with her own money was better. I need to make a phone call, Martha muttered, stepping away into the corridor. I stood there, wiping my fake tears, waiting patiently. I could hear her urgent whispers. Liam. It is true. Completely unable. Switch to the other one. When she returned 10 minutes later, she looked slightly more relaxed. Chloe, don't put so much pressure on yourself. But, given your condition, you definitely can't travel back with me today. You go back to your condo and rest. Liam will come up to the city in a few days to get the paperwork sorted. Thank you, Mom, I whispered gratefully. Tell Liam, I'm waiting for him. Martha nodded, eager to catch the next bus back to the mountains, so she could secure Harper before she left. She assumed my condo wasn't going anywhere. She assumed the obedient little sheep would sit in her pen and wait. The moment Martha's cab pulled away, I pulled out my phone and sent Liam a text. Liam, I can't have children. I'm too ashamed to face you. I don't deserve you. Thank you for caring for me. But goodbye. I hit send. Then immediately blocked his number, Martha's number, and wiped my phone. 2 weeks later, I was walking along the gorgeous coastline of Monterey, California, sipping a latte. My new phone rang. It was Sal. Well, sweetheart. Sal's voice crackled through the speaker. Your country boy X has been calling my guys, offering $3,000 to anyone who can tell him where you went. I smiled, watching the ocean waves crash against the rocks. I wired Sal $6,000 on the spot. Received, Sal chuckled. Consider him a ghost, kid. Pleasure doing business with you. I opened my blocked messages folder. Liam had sent dozens of frantic texts. Chloe, stop this. Who are the people tearing down your condo? You can't run away from this. Let me help you. At least answer Harper. She has been crying all day. I scrolled down and found Harper's texts. They were a completely different tone. So you can't have kids, who cares? I'm destined to have sons anyway. I'll just let them call you Auntie Chloe. At least you have your assets to leave to my kids, right? LOL. Hello, ignoring me. You lose a baby, and suddenly you lose your manners too. Ungrateful person. I shook my head, amused by her sheer toxicity, and temporarily unblocked her. Within 10 minutes of unblocking her, my phone rang. Chloe. Harper shrieked the moment I answered, her voice dripping with anger. Are you doing this on purpose to mess with us? So what if you can't have kids? You don't need to throw a tantrum and make us all suffer. In the background, I could hear Liam and Martha chiming in. Chloe, you're being so immature, Liam yelled. A daughter-in-law shouldn't act this way, Martha scolded. They lectured me for a solid 5 minutes before realizing I hadn't said a word. Hello, are you mute? Harper snapped. Are you finished? I asked calmly, the ocean breeze ruffling my hair. Harper paused, caught off guard by my icy tone. What is your problem? We're worried about you. I don't deserve to be in the Blackwood family, I said, my voice smooth and utterly devoid of emotion. I committed too many mistakes, and this situation is my punishment. So, I sold the condo. I sold the car. I donated every single penny to a charitable organization overseas. And I'm moving there tomorrow. Dead silence fell over the line. You did what? Liam roared, his voice cracking with genuine panic. Chloe, why would you do something like that without talking to me? What is there to talk about? I asked innocently. That was our house, our money, Liam screamed, losing his mask entirely. Get back here right now, we can fix this. No, Liam. I know you and Mom really like Harper. I'm stepping aside so she can take my place. I'll wish you all the best. Goodbye. I hung up. 30 minutes later, Harper called me back from a different number. She was whispering, clearly hiding outside the cabin. Chloe, you didn't leave because of health reasons. You're too smart for that. What is going on? I don't know what you mean, Harper, I said lightly. Aren't you happy? You wanted to be Mrs. Liam, and now you are. Plus, you're expecting, aren't you? Harper gasped. How do you know that? Your secret social media account, I replied, pulling up her page on my iPad. You posted about your little mountain miracle 2 weeks ago. You stopped using protection the minute you thought I was out of the picture, didn't you? Harper's tone turned defensive and harsh. I was doing you a favor. You can't give him kids. Why let some stranger inherit all these private mountains and hunting lodges when I can do it? We're best friends, Chloe. We share everything. I laughed a cold, hard laugh. You're right, Harper, you can have it all. You're just jealous, Harper spat, her deep-seated insecurities finally boiling over. You've always acted superior. You got the good degree, the corporate job, the perfect condo. I had to ask you for help. But I won this time, Chloe. I got the millionaire. You certainly did, I smiled. Enjoy the endless mountains, Harper. Enjoy the good man, and the wonderful mother-in-law. It is all yours. I ended the call and tossed my phone onto the passenger seat of my rental car. I didn't need to say anything else. Liam, a violent individual who just lost his cash source, was now stuck with a broke, pregnant narcissist. It was a match made in hell. A month passed. I spent my days reading on the beach, doing yoga, and enjoying my freedom. Harper's secret social media account had gone completely dark. The aesthetic photos of pine trees and cozy cabin fires were gone. Then, at 2 in the morning on a rainy Tuesday, my phone lit up. It was Liam's number. I answered it. Hello, Chloe. Please, you have to help me. Harper's voice was a ragged, sobbing croak. I'm begging you, call the police. The local sheriff won't do anything. They just drink with Liam. Please call the state authorities. My life is in danger here. Listening to her beg, a profound sense of cosmic justice washed over me. In my past life, when I had called her from that very same cabin, begging for my life. What had she said? Oh, right. I cleared my throat and perfectly mimicked her tone from my past life. Harper, you're just overthinking it. It is just pregnancy hormones. The mountain air is so good for you. Just try to overcome your anxiety, okay? No, Chloe. Listen to me. Harper shrieked in terror. Liam mistreats me. He strikes me. He found out my designer bags are fake. He found out I have 50 grand in credit card debt. He is not a millionaire. He is broke. The land doesn't belong to him. They're locking me away. Well, Harper, I interrupted smoothly. Maybe you need to look in the mirror. If even the authorities don't care, maybe you're the problem. Have you tried just being a better listener? Harper choked on a sob, realizing I was repeating the exact dismissive advice she used to give me when I complained about my problems in college. Chloe, please just wire me $10,000. I can buy my way out. There was a loud crash on the other end of the line, followed by a sudden thud and a sharp scream. The phone fumbled, and Liam's voice came through, breathless and frantic. Chloe, baby, is that you? Don't listen to her. She is crazy. Her hormones are out of whack. When are you coming back to me? Even with the woman carrying his child in distress next to him, Liam was still trying to manipulate me. Take good care of my best friend Liam, I said softly, and ended the call. I turned off my phone, rolled over in my plush hotel bed, and fell into the deepest, most peaceful sleep of my life. The climax arrived exactly when I knew it would. A few weeks later, the Appalachian town of Blackwood Creek held its annual summer festival. Liam and Martha consumed moonshine until late. They dragged Harper out in front of the villagers, humiliating her, mocking her artificial appearance, and her empty bank accounts, talking about how they had confined her. In my past life, I had taken the mistreatment until my life ended, but Harper was not me. Harper was a cornered, vicious narcissist who had lost everything, and she was expecting. That night, Harper broke free. She found a heavy hunting tool in the kitchen. She didn't just attack Liam, she overpowered him. She severely harmed Martha in her sleep. Covered in stains, entirely detached from reality, she walked out into the dirt road and confronted the neighbors who had ignored her screams for months. She struck 2 villagers before the state troopers finally arrived and tackled her to the ground. The next morning, I got a phone call from a state police detective. Miss, we are calling regarding a Harper Vance. She committed a severe crime last night. We need to know, did Liam and Martha abuse her? The locals claim Harper just snapped unprovoked. In my past life, Harper had lied to the cops, protecting Liam and Martha to spite me. She let me pass away as a disgraced runaway. I could have done the same. I could have said Liam was a saint, and Harper was crazy, but I didn't want Liam and Martha to be remembered as innocent victims. I wanted the world to know exactly what they were. Detective, I said, my voice shaking with perfectly acted trauma. Liam and Martha are monsters. They trap women. They lock them away. They take their ID cards. The entire village knows and covers it up. Check the cellar. Check the restraints. Check Harper's medical records. The resulting investigation blew the town of Blackwood Creek wide open. The state police found the evidence in the cellar. They found the restraints. The media descended on the town, exposing the villagers as complicit enablers of a horrific kidnapping and abuse ring. Liam and Martha were remembered as hated, disgraced monsters because Harper had attacked unarmed people in the street. She didn't get off on self-defense. She was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. She would spend the rest of her life in a concrete box surrounded by concrete walls, never seeing a luxury handbag or a mountain view ever again. A few days later, Sal called me one last time. I gotta hand it to you, kid. He laughed. You resolved the whole situation, and didn't even get a stain on your shoes. If you ever want a job in my line of work, you let me know. Thanks, Sal. But I'm officially retired. I hung up the phone. I popped the SIM card out of the tray, snapped it in half, and tossed it into the Pacific Ocean. The sun was shining. The breeze was warm. I took a deep breath of the salty air, smiled and walked away.
That's all for today. I'm Lina. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing stories every week. Thanks for watching!